Tell me what you get up to. You got signed to a record label?
Yes,
What?
I signed a record. I know. Thank you. That's sweet, and it's funny too because I'm just gonna say for anybody listening, this is like a good kickoff. Marisa, who's interviewing me, was you weren't at my first show, but you were basically at my first like tour date show. Like when I started out for my first album, Watching Waiting, we were like touring the Midwest, and then the first time we ever like went anywhere beyond that was Atlanta, and we played this like clothing store, and you were there with like two people. There were like two people that, if that, I think it may have been just you actually.
It was the weirdest show. I was like at a clothing store and you had a full band with you and there were like 5 of us there. And then you guys were playing in Athens later that night.
Yeah.
And we were like, oh yeah, we'll just come. We don't have anything to do. We'll just come.
It's funny because I like erased the Athens from my mind completely. But I remember the clothing store. I remember Athens too, but now I just always think of that one thing. So you were there from the beginning. Thank you. Awesome.
And now you're signed to a record label. How did that happen?
That's a good question. I mean, essentially, it's I spent the last 3 years making this album that's coming out. It's called Future Throwback. It's coming out early 2014 on Blaster Records. The single Nintendo, I think you may have heard, is already out. And kind of like the deal with the record is like, I don't know, the stuff I had put out before. I had like my first album, which I'm really proud of, but like, I don't know. I think the reason people come to my shows is like to connect kind of like with the personality that I had, like a high energy kind of fun show or whatever. And the music that I had put out never really reflected that. There were a couple songs on the first album, but still like essentially the last 3 years I spent fighting to make a record that was like that reflected me, who I was. Like when you come to a show, like I just want people to get that experience when they put out my album. So essentially, to answer your question in the longest possible roundabout way, I spent 3 years, wrote 70 songs for this thing, wrote 70 songs for the record, recorded in 4 different cities, and then finally, in the last kind of year and a half, like the whole album took shape. I think Nintendo was the last song I wrote for the album, the very last song. And then when everything was done, Blaster Records came in, listened to it, and signed me to a deal, which is really cool. So it's funny because people are like, "Oh, how's your music gonna be like affected by like being on a record label?" I'm like, not at all. Quite the opposite, actually. But moral of the story is, I'm just like, this record, I gave the last 3 years of my life to it, fought for it, and I'm like really excited about it.
What did they want you to make? Like, what were they trying to get you to do that you were like, no, I just want to be myself?
No, they came in at the end. It was me.
Before.
Before?
Yeah, before they came, you said you were fighting.
No, I was fighting my own battle with myself. Like, I wrote like 70 songs. Some, like, 30 of them would be like, I wrote like 2 different records. Like, it would be like a rock album, and I'd be like, this is cool. And then I would write like a singer-songwriter, and I was putting that pressure. It was all self-applied pressure. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
It wasn't. The label came in at the end. We're like, we love what you did, and signed me to a deal. But like the last 3 years were essentially me going, I'm not going to go out and tour again without an album that I feel like is not only the best thing I've ever done, but that like is super current, will compete or try and blow anything else away that's out there right now in pop. Like that's the album I wanted to make. I set the bar there, and I do feel like I achieved it. I'm pretty excited about it. So that's where I'm at from the last just 3 years of. I think you've probably seen me live in between, but that's what I've been doing. You know?
Yeah, I saw you at Smith's, and I think like last time you were like, "Oh, this is a new song I wrote," and it was Nintendo.
I think that was like the first or second tour date. First or second time we played that song, maybe. Yeah, it went through a lot between then and now. There's a bunch of different lyrics. The production's is totally different, and that is a really good example, Marisa, of like how I was doing it this whole time. Was like I would like write or record something, go out on tour, and then people would be like, "That sucks," or not that it sucked, but it just didn't get the reaction that like when you remember hearing Nintendo the first time from last year, that one time. So I wanted to make sure every song had been like road tested and was like cool before I even bothered recording it, you know? So that's why it took so ridiculously long to make this record, you know?
That is something that goes on in your head, like, okay, I want this to be like the next Miley, the next Bruno, whatever.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's like if I can compete why am I doing this? You know what I'm saying? Like, I want to stand at that level. You know, that's my goal, and I feel like a lot of these songs really do. I mean, you know, we have a long way to go with like promoting the record, but I feel like we're off to a really, really good start. So
You have like that's your end goal, and you have steps to get there. Like, what's like the
yeah,
next step after the tour?
yeah, I mean, the next step after the tour is to go to radio with Nintendo. You know, this is all just like this whole process has been like getting it out to my friends and fans, like so you can hear it. And you know, started to do press and TV, but radio starts early next year, and then the album, and then things start to move.
I'm so excited, and Nintendo might be the catchiest song of the year. You've probably heard that before.
I'm hoping so. I'm hoping so. It's kind of a summer jam, so I'm hoping it's the summer jam in 2014.
Yeah. What's the best advice you've ever been given?
What's the best advice I've ever been given?
Yeah, this is important.
That's easy. And it's so funny because I'm talking to, I'm not going to say one of the few people who would even get this reference, but I wouldn't say that everybody would get this reference. Matt Nathanson gave me the best advice I've ever had.
Okay, what did he say?
So when I was making my first album, Watching Waiting, and it's funny because I still think about this all the time. He was making his album, Some Mad Hope, which turned out to be his breakthrough album. With that song Come and Get Higher. So we were making them at the same time with the same producer. And so I'd be in there one day and then he would be in there the next day. And I was super young and I was like into him, but I wasn't like a huge fan, but I was a fan. But I definitely like looked up to his career path. I thought his career path was awesome. I still do. And he was like listening to the music as it went, my record, and he was hearing like the song Friday Night, Don't Start Till Saturday Morning. He was like into it. He was like, these are great. You know, this is really cool. And I remember when I was done with the record, I sent it to him and I texted him and he was like, oh, thanks for the album. He goes, this is really good. He's like, you're great, but don't ever stop yourself from being like really good. You know what I'm saying? And I thought that was his way of being like, this was someone who I looked up, his way of saying you're on the right track, but you have to push harder. And it wasn't a reference to the album. The album was great. It was just basically him saying, look, this shit is really, really hard, and like you have a long road ahead of you. And so I think about that all the time, you know. And I think that's the best advice I ever got. So best advice I ever got was you're really good. Don't let anything stop you from being better. You know.
Have you seen him since then and like told him that story?
What's that?
Have you seen him since then and told him that?
You know, I never got a chance to. We haven't been in touch as much. Sorry, you're breaking up a little. Am I breaking up as I come through to you too?
No, not really. It might just be me.
Okay, good. Because all that matters is that I'm heard, not you. I'm just kidding. No,
your head is already so big.
Right, exactly. No, you know, I've seen him here and there, but we haven't really kept in touch as well. You know, I would, if I saw him and talked to him, I would definitely tell him that. I'm not shy at all. I chase people down.
Yeah, no, I know you're not.
Do you know who Citizen Cope is?
Yes, I do.
I'm a big fan of him, and I was sitting at this club one night in New York called Rockwood, and I was leaning up against the glass, and there's like to the street, and it's like all fogged up because it was like raining, and I turn around, and he's like leaning in, like peering in. He looks like a big Neanderthal, like a big caveman. And I was like, whoa, that's Citizen Cope, and then I turned around and I ran out the door and chased him down the street and just told him so like I'll definitely tell him if I ever see him that influenced me.
You live in New York and you go to, I see, not that I'm like stalking, but I have social networking, and you go to a lot of shows,
right.
like, supporting all of these people.
Junkie. Yeah.
How important is that to you? Like, I don't know why the connection is bad, but
how important? It's probably me.
Again, how important is that to support local artists? Like, you're coming to Atlanta, you're playing Smithsonian
Sure.
Bar, which is a smaller venue here, but it's awesome. It's one of my favorites. But how important is it that people actually come out and support live music?
I mean, it's everything. Like, the show this Saturday is what is it? The 8th, the 19th. Playing this Saturday, the 19th, I think it is. Smith's is so awesome. I don't know. The last show we played there a year ago, to me, just has high energy. I love Eddie's Attic. I love all those rooms, but there's something about Smith that has like a party vibe that works a little bit better for me. You know, when it comes down to supporting artists, I don't really look at it that way because I hate looking at music as pop music as philanthropy. It's like, it's kind of the same thing as like I don't know why I'm going off on a hate tangent here, but like when you go see a singer-songwriter and like they shush the audience, or that you feel that you have to sit there and be shushed, like that should just happen naturally. Like, so my point is that supporting singers, like, or music or pop music or whatever level, I think it should be out of fun. I think people should come to the show because it's gonna be fun, not because they feel they should. You know what I'm saying? I know it's gonna be a great time on Saturday night, but to answer your question, I think there are people who are really great who don't get their due, and yeah, people should definitely listen to them and support them. You know, and I'm not saying I'm not one of those people. Like, I need support for sure. But yeah, I think people at all levels need the help, but I don't like to put it that way. You know what I'm saying? Like, come because it's gonna be fun. You know?
Okay, so it's gonna be fun. Tell everyone else 3 words in your live performance in 3 words, and then we'll wrap it up.
My live performance in 3 words: energetic, fun, and engaging. Engaging.
I would have used all 3 of those. Yeah, it was like weird at Eddie's because you were like dancing and doing like the Lion King, and it was really quiet. And I was like, no, this is awesome. Get into it. But
see, but that's cool and that's respectful. I like that. But it's when people are shushing people that I think it's weird. And Eddie's is awesome. I mean, I don't want to say anything because I'll definitely be back there. I love that place. Yeah. But Smith is so fun.
We're gonna party. Awesome. It's gonna be a rage around Saturday. So I'm excited to see you, and thank you for doing this with me.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it. This is cool. We should do it again sometime. And I love your purple hair. It looks amazing.
Thanks. All right, I'll see you Saturday, Todd. Good luck with everything.
Awesome. Rock and roll. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.